hi everybody, and thanks so much for joining this session. Thank you GMAT Club for hosting us. Let me just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Shimri Winters. I hold a computer science bachelor's degree. At the end of my degree, I went to be a programmer in a big company, a big IT company for a couple of years. Then I did my London Business School MBA. I worked in consulting, then in business development, and I've been at ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting for 7 years now. This is what I do full time. One word about ARINGO: we help candidates get into top MBA programs. So that's about ARINGO. We've been going on for 18 years. We're great. Check us out on aringo.com. That was my marketing pitch. Great. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have 3 different candidates. The candidates are very different from each other, and I hope you appreciate that. And when we go through their profiles, we're going to roughly take about 10 minutes per profile. And I'm also going to try and give specific information on that profile, but I might say a couple of general things about someone who comes from a similar company or a similar profile. For you viewers out there, maybe you'll also gain something for your profile. So with that, I think we will start. So let's move to Nitish. And I think the easiest is if you just tell us kind of a 1-minute brief about yourself quite quickly, and then we'll have a little chat about your profile. How does that sound?
Sure, Shimri.
Okay.
Shimri, so I did my undergrad in mechanical engineering from Punjab University, India. I was a gold medalist from my university for securing a first rank in the university. Post that, I moved on to working in the production department of a cement company for 2 years, where I basically led a team of about 250 to 300 employees through the daily maintenance activities and turnaround cycles. Post 2 years, I ended up doing my diploma in management from one of the schools in India, and I completed that out in 2016. After that, I've been working in Deloitte, basically working in the asset valuation function for the M&A team in Deloitte. I started out as a consultant working in the life sciences and healthcare side, and then I've progressed on to leading a team of about 10, 11 consultants, and right now I'm working in telecommunication and leading oil and gas valuations. So recently I had an experience of about 13 months wherein I worked on the Saudi Aramco recent IPO, where I was valuing the asset
Wow.
valuations for Saudi Aramco and the SABIC deal that was recently concluded. So in addition to that, I've also come up with a couple of innovative automation tools which have basically helped the company increase their profitability on some of the smallest projects as well. So on an average, the profitability has increased by 15 to 20%. So that has been one of the biggest achievements from my professional experience as well.
Okay.
On the extracurricular side, I am a big passionate F1 fan and hope to drive a F1 car someday. I've also been playing badminton and squash over the years, and that is something that has become a passion of mine as well.
Okay. Okay. So I forgot to mention, that's great. And when we'll look at each candidate, we'll talk definitely about all the aspects, especially work experience, education, and extracurricular activities. So I think you actually mentioned all 3. We'll also kind of talk about the GMAT
Okay.
and school wish list. So I can see on our screen it says you're planning to retake it. How's that going?
So I've basically applied to all the schools listed down here in round 1. I'm done with the
Okay.
applications for them. So as
Okay.
right now I'm preparing for the GMAT. Until unless I receive back any interview invites, I'm just continuing with my GMAT preps till then.
Okay, so you've already applied to these schools with your 710. If you improve it, first of all, try and update the schools. Some of them might be a bit negative about it. I have to admit, I won't badmouth the school. I did have a candidate update the school 48 hours after the deadline with a 40-point raise in his GMAT. And they basically said, no problem, but we'll move your application to round 2, or we'll take into account your old GMAT because you missed the deadline. So some schools are a bit tough about the deadlines, really annoying. But some might say, fine, we'll update your file and we'll, attach this email that you're sending us about your new GMAT. So if you do improve it, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
the sooner the better.
Yep.
Try and update the schools, and if not, like you said, I hope you get in with this GMAT, but if not, you might have a better GMAT in round 2.
Yep. Sure.
A higher GMAT can also help for scholarships. So even if you take the GMAT 3 or 4 or 5 weeks after the deadline, and even if you've been already invited to an interview, or even if you've been already accepted, it's still worth updating the school about the higher GMAT. Okay, so
Yep. Okay.
all good. If you think you can do better, try and do better. Okay, let's talk a bit about your profile. And let's start, Nitish, with talking a bit about your professional experience. And actually, I'm going to use the other panelists. They didn't expect this. I'm going to ask them a question because I can't ask our whole YouTube audience. I'm going to ask them a question. And by the way, you guys on YouTube, you can definitely ask questions along the way. In about 25 minutes, when we finish with all the candidates, we'll go through all your questions and I'll answer them live. So feel free to ask questions along the way, both about what you're hearing today, maybe about the profiles you're listening to and hearing, and I'll definitely try and answer them. I'll try. So panelists, this is a question to you guys. Nitish has been working for 6 years for Deloitte. When I see a candidate from Deloitte, is that a good thing or a less good thing?
So based on my interactions with the admission committees and all, so as a Deloitte as a brand name, and your experience as in the experience that he has mentioned, 6 years of experience, and he has been leading teams, so that does strike a good impression.
Wait, just the brand name. Yeah,
that again strikes a good impression, saying that since Deloitte is one of the top, it happens to be in the big 4 and one of the best consulting firms. So
correct. So,
an MBA,
I'll
MBA
expand
people
on that.
tend to
Wait. Let me expand on that. Okay,
All right.
okay, Devendra. So thank you, and it was a trick question. So the thing with Deloitte is this. Okay, I think probably a fifth to a fourth. I haven't counted this. I'm just guessing. Of the people I speak to a year come from big 4 accounting firms. Okay, and again, they're not necessarily accountants. They might be consultants or financial services, but they come from EY, Deloitte, PwC, or KPMG. And these are tier 1 brands. Everybody knows them. Definitely, it adds 2 points, right? Definitely, let's say you have 100 points, so however admissions want to decide if you're moving to the next level or not. Being in a tier 1 brand definitely adds to your profile. On the other hand, I said it was a trick question. Remember what I said, that the 4th or 5th of my candidates, and I'm assuming the same goes to nearly every MBA program, also come from one of these big 4 brands or other brands as well. And that's why it's a bit of a plus and minus. Okay, so you get 2 extra points. Great, you made it to a great company. On the other hand, there's another 1,000 or 500 candidates from a very similar company or even the same company. And you haven't seen the panelist profile. There's even another Deloitte candidate in these panelists. So that's the problem in brackets, that you're also competing against similar candidates. And when you come from a tier 1 company, it doesn't matter if it's one of the big 4. It can also be Google. It can also be Coca-Cola. Okay, it can be General Motors. It can be different industries. But when you come from one of the big industry leaders, and it's definitely extra 2 points, keep in mind there's more candidates from this kind of profile and from this company, and you definitely want to try and find something to differentiate you. Okay, so you get plus 2 points, but also you get a quick star. Is he different than another 500 candidates? Okay, so it's plus and minus sometimes. Okay, back to Nitish. So I think what you've been doing in the last 6 years at Deloitte is actually amazing. Okay, I think your profile there is very strong. You've had several promotions. You're managing people. You're working on very interesting projects. I think you've also you're managing also people from the US. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes. And are you working with teams from other countries as well?
It's based on projects. So like the Saudi Aramco project, I was working with multiple teams from Europe, UAE, and India as well. So yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. So this is something I would really mention in the bullets when I write my CV, and also in the essays, my international experience, and literally write the countries that you've worked with in your
Hmm.
CV, in your essays. Again, it doesn't mean that you went to Germany and lived there for 3 years and worked from Germany. But if you worked with a German team, this does show that you have, good communication skills. You are able to work with teams from other countries. So this is great. Okay.
Hmm.
Of course, this amazing, Saudi Aramco deal, fantastic. Mention the numbers, mention the complexity of this deal. Amazing, great achievement and something very, very interesting. And I think as a whole, your work experience is your stronger side. Okay, don't worry, we'll get to some weaker sides as well.
Yeah.
But when I see your work experience, I also think like your post graduation, like the straight after your undergraduate degree, you were already leading. You said 200 to 300 people, in some kind of environment, and this is just terrific for a very young guy, right? To work in and have this opportunity to lead a lot of people, to lead projects that are worth a lot of money. I think your career progress has been amazing. So well done. You get the thumbs up. Now let's talk about other aspects.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your education. So your undergraduate degree is great. But again, I haven't run statistics, but I would say about 3 to 5% of my candidates that I speak to and that I work with have prior MBAs. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not going to ask the audience because it's a trick question again. Is this an advantage or a disadvantage? Okay. In a nutshell, to be honest, it's a disadvantage. Okay. Because you need to explain to any other program, why do you need another MBA? Now, I know that if you do an MBA at Wharton, it's very, very different to the MBA you did. Okay, I understand this. And let me take it to another extent. There's people that do part-time MBAs, there's people that do online MBAs in terrible colleges, but still they already hold an MBA. And there's some programs, many, many programs, that don't like this. Okay, they don't like the fact that you have a previous MBA. Now, my answer to this is address it. Okay, don't just leave it there. Don't just hide it. Okay, address this, and you can address it, and you can explain why this MBA was different, and why you want to do a full-time MBA. Obviously, in another geography, with you now come with a different set of experiences, completely different. So I would say your undergraduate is fantastic. Your previous MBA is actually somehow a disadvantage. Turn it into an advantage. Explain maybe what you learned there,
Hmm.
and why you want to do another MBA specifically in, for example, Wharton, and what you can do in Wharton, which is very different perhaps than what you did in a prior MBA. Okay.
Okay.
This is where I see the education. Another
Hmm.
thing is, let's just talk about the GMAT.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there. You come from a very, very competitive background. There's a lot of candidates that have, come from India and maybe have a similar background to yours. Again, not necessarily the same achievements in your work experience. Your GMAT is below average for most of the schools that you apply to, below the regular average of the school. And I would say when someone comes from a very competitive background, they need to have an above average GMAT. So I really hope you can improve the GMAT. And again, this year at ARINGO, we had an Indian male engineer, from a regular company, 4 years experience, that got into Wharton. So it's definitely doable. I'm not saying this is impossible, but it will be very challenging with your GMAT. And I would say that's my second and probably the biggest worry when I see your application or when I see your profile. When I look at your extracurriculars, great, like really nice, and I really like them. I have to admit that when I read your CV, and even here on the screen, it was a bit hard for me to understand in what capacity you did these volunteering activities.
Hmm.
So usually when someone volunteers, he would say, I worked with UNESCO as a, whatever I was doing, 3 hours a week, and these are the tasks I was doing. And for you, it was just something a bit more general. I wasn't exactly sure who you were working with, in these specific volunteering activities. On the other hand, they're super impressive. So what can I say?
Yeah. So
and just to end with, just say about your hobbies, fantastic hobbies, amazing hobbies, great that you do more than one thing, and it's fantastic that you're passionate about something like Formula One. Yes, and you started by saying, I would love to be a Formula One race driver. Fantastic. I know it's like a dream, but great. Like it's really good.
okay.
Last words from you, Nitish, if you want to comment on anything.
No, I think I have a couple of questions which I can add towards the end of the session once we're done with all the profile evaluations. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Shimri.
Okay, great. And as you've seen, I'm talking now to, thanks, Nitish. And as you've seen, I'm talking now to the YouTube crowds out there. I'm just talking as much as I can, so you guys get out of this, as much as you can. But again, if you have any specific questions, you can just ask here on the YouTube. I will answer them. So again, my challenge is to talk for 40 minutes straight. I might need a glass of water in the middle, but that's my challenge. So Nitish, I hope I managed to give you a bit in the 10 minutes. Good luck. And let's move to our next candidate and panelist, Benjamin. Hi, how are you, first of all? So nice to see you. Anyway, yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Well, my name is Benjamin Rodriguez. I'm from Mexico. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. Here in Mexico, it's a bachelor's degree of about 5 years. And it was a little time. But I on the score in my GMAT, I had 450. It was a low blow, but I think I will retake it. In fact, tomorrow I will take the test again.
Good luck.
In the old version. And I think my mistake was that when I was doing my GMAT, I focused too much time in resolving the questions instead of managing my time in a better way. It was my mistake because I want to take the best score, but I underperformed in the question of time. And the TOEFL, I have a score of 144. I also am studying for the IELTS because I know that currently I don't have that job and I have to use my time in learning a lot of things that I have to do. For my work experience, I worked 11 years as finance director for the Mexican government. My job is to manage the financial resources of this secretary. Is the Secretary of Public Service. Is one of the secretaries that is responsible for performing all the audits and all the revision in the entire Mexican Republic. And so my function was very essential because I had to make all the resources available for all the auditors and all the people that want to make the revision. And sometimes they have to give money to lawyers because they have lawsuits against the Mexican government or any other kind of things. I was also responsible for to make the contracts with the airlines with the best conditions for the Mexican government. In fact, in one of these negotiations, I allowed to give an savings for about 600,000 pesos, and the equivalent to Canadian pesos, because I like to not only to do my job, to just to study more about it. I also was responsible for the transparency in the Mexican government. I was my goal. Well, my first achievement is that I can put on display on a public network all the information about the travel expenses of all the
Wow.
people that were working in the secretary.
Okay.
So,
So Benjamin, I'll stop you there because it sounds like you have a lot of achievements, and again, you've been working for a lot of years. So I'm going to start talking and ask you questions along the way, if that's okay. So question number one, which school, and this is a question that I've prepared for, which schools are you aiming for, if you know at all which schools you're aiming for?
Well, I have the three first choices. The first choice is the University of York, the College Business School in Canada. My second option is the University of Toronto.
Yeah.
The Rodman is, and the third is the University of British Columbia.
Okay.
In fact, in British Columbia, I have made several. I may have already have made an application, but due to my GMAT is not no one as I wanted, but I will reapply.
Okay.
I have talked to them, and they say what my mistakes were and what are the opportunities I have, and also they had to improve my GMAT score.
Okay. Okay. So guys, first of all, thanks, Benjamin. Thanks a lot. So first of all, I also put here a little link that you can see. I'm sure I'll find how to hide it soon. This is actually quite common. This is actually quite common, and I get again, I don't know the percentages, but I get quite a lot of candidates which have more than 10 years of experience. Okay, and Benjamin, you have more than 15 years of experience, plus minus, right? The problem is, again, I'm going to try and generalize this conversation and obviously give you a bit of specific information. So if I have to generalize it, candidates with more than 12 years of experience cannot get into a top 10 regular, okay, I'm here my air quotes, MBA in the US or in Europe. They're overqualified. And I know most places to be overqualified is a good thing, but in the MBA world, you have to think what the MBA programs are looking for. They're looking to get the best candidates, to get them great jobs at the end of the MBA, to double or triple their salary. And when a candidate comes from let's say with a lot of experience or maybe very senior, they might be worried, hey, maybe we won't be able to find him a job at McKinsey, Amazon, or a bigger employer. And maybe we won't be able to double or triple his salary. And maybe his expectations will be a bit different. Actually, I don't want to bother with this candidate. And that will happen a lot of times. Again, schools might not say this, out there. And I've seen some candidates, even speak to some of the top schools in the US. And I've just heard the admissions there saying it's holistic. It's just one aspect. And yes, you might have a lot of experience. And I don't want to swear and say they're lying. But having more than 12 years of experience in a lot of cases is a no-no for the regular MBA programs. Luckily, there's quite a few, well, there aren't many, but there are a few full-time MBA programs for senior candidates. Some of them require a minimum of 10 years experience. Some of them, London Business School Sloan program has, the average age there, I think, is 38. MIT Sloan Fellows is also, the average is something like that of the age. Years of experience can be 12 to 16 as an average. So there are certain programs which suit more senior candidates. Okay, Benjamin, like you. I understand. Yeah. Now I understand you're going for some of the Canadian schools. I also assuming one of the reasons is you weren't sure which school in the US would accept someone like you, and the second reason is cost. The US schools are very, very expensive. I understand that. On the other hand, some of these programs, unlike the full-time MBAs, are less concerned about your GMAT. Some of them are less concerned about your undergraduate GPA, okay, because it was such a long time ago. And they're more concerned about the caliber of candidates that are coming. And if we take, for example, MIT Sloan Fellows, you don't even need a GMAT to apply. So one of the best programs in the world would suit you perfectly, and you don't even need a GMAT. So I would also look at some of the programs on the list I just sent, and see, if some are suitable for you. I think you're a fantastic senior candidate. You're actually super senior. And more senior than a lot of the other candidates. Just a bit of profile analysis on what you've been doing. So I think for 10 or 11 years, you pretty much were doing the same job, okay, as the finance director. It's a very senior position, but still MBA programs like to see people kind of move. And again, I know there wasn't a lot where you could move up because you were already senior, and I'm assuming moving up means going into politics, basically. But still, I would have liked to see some kind of move between two departments in the government, and even if it's not up, sideways somewhere. What you can do is you can just split your CV into different projects and say, okay, 2010 to 2012, I was working on bids. You were talking a lot about transparency, right? Like I was working on this project where everybody knew the travel expenses and things. So you can actually split the CV according to projects, and that would kind of split up what you were doing. I'm a bit surprised that you're working on the IELTS. Most universities take the IELTS or the TOEFL, same. You've done already the TOEFL, you got a good score. And if you want to show the schools that you're kind of preparing, I know you're not working right now, and you want to show them that you're doing something, there's like pre-MBA courses, which I think I would have preferred to see you doing. So you can check out Berkeley and UCLA have a lot of online courses. Just Google, pre-MBA bootcamp courses, etc. There's pre-MBA math courses as well. And I think if you would have done one or two of those, that would have shown the school that you have the academic ability to go back now to school and kind of complete a course. So I suggest actually do the IELTS or don't do it, but I suggest kind of looking at one of those pre-MBA courses. It takes a couple of weeks to complete, but you have the time. Just do those. For programs that require a GMAT, yeah, your GMAT is worrying. It looks like you have great English, because just from talking to you, plus your TOEFL score is high, so you do have good English. I'm assuming it's just practicing the test. Again, I don't know if you need a private tutor or just to practice, but if you can score above 600, that's probably what you. Okay, that's what I can see, kind of from a bird's eye.
I want to say something, and I was dismissed from my position due to the change in the Mexican government, and since this time I was studying, and also in my current CV I'm not putting the courses that I already taken, because I want to add as soon as I finish them. But actually, currently I am taking several courses about the MBA, and also I want to obtain a CPA degree, because I'm only an accountant, and I think that it will be better. And also my top priorities are these schools.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. These schools are my top priorities, but I also searching in Europe, and they say me that in Europe the GMAT is not so important, because they really appreciate my experience. I also have take several offers in the executive MBA, but actually I don't like this, because my current situation is not so good, because I don't have a job, and so it would be.
So Benjamin, again, just in this session, sorry, like this is the feedback I can give you. Naturally, we can be in touch, after this session, and I can try and give you a bit more advice. Go for the schools that you want. First of all, this is something general. If you want a certain school, don't let Shimri or anyone else tell you don't apply. Okay. So first of all, apply to the schools that you want, and try and get into those. If you don't get into those, obviously look for backup programs, etc. But let's talk offline, Benjamin. I'm happy to help. Okay. I really enjoyed looking at your profile. I think you have a fantastic profile, super senior. You can get into some excellent programs. Yes, you might require a GMAT, or look at some programs that just don't require a GMAT. There's also options like that. Take some pre-MBA courses and go for it. Specifically, I do suggest for candidates with more than 10 or 12 years experience to look at specific programs like I wrote in the link that are designed for people with more than 10 or 12 years experience. Okay, but thanks a lot, Benjamin, and we'll take it offline from here if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, we're now going into candidate number 3. And Divanshu, thanks so much for waiting and being last. Maybe it's the best, I'm not sure yet. So give us a little intro about yourself.
Hello. So I've done my graduation from Delhi Technological University, and I completed my graduation in 2014. So after that, I took a break. I did another course in PG diploma, wherein I wanted to learn more about the technical aspects of how the industry works, and I did a PG diploma in advanced computing. Then after that, in 2015, that's when I entered the market and started off my career with IT consulting. So 2015, and I worked with Sybase for a couple of years in the travel and hospitality domain, wherein we were developing applications for the clientele. Since it's the travel and hospitality domain, there were clientele such as Marriott and different hotels, and we were developing applications to set the rates based on demands and the different rates set by the competitors. Then later on in 2017, I moved to Deloitte in the IT consulting sector, and I've been working with them since then. And this time I moved into a different domain in the healthcare sector, and I've been working for the Louisiana Department of Health. Now, for the last 3 years, I started off as a fresher, as a newbie, but over the period of time, my responsibilities have grown, and especially during this COVID outbreak, wherein we have been working remotely. So there have been a lot of new people who have been joining, and I've been mentoring them. And I could say over the last 1 year, I've gained a lot of management experience, wherein not a large team, but a team of around 4 to 5 folks whom I'm mentoring with the work and guiding them, helping them scale up with the rest of the team members. Along with that, I am working with the clientele. So we have the clients in the US. So on a regular basis, we have the refinement calls for the requirements, and I tend to identify gaps and suggest how to move forward with the requirements or what.
And you wrote it to the target schools and the GMAT?
Yes, I have written to the target schools. I even had a word with the admission committee about.
Have you applied to these schools already?
So yes, almost. Like I haven't submitted them, but yes, the deadlines are they're almost there. The deadlines are around 28th of October, and I'm almost done with my application.
Did you want to add anything, or shall we jump into me talking? I'll start, but just tell me, when. So first of all, I really like your profile. Okay, very, very solid. You have a good education, a very good education. I think you mentioned you were top 3% in your first exam, and again, you had a good GPA. And I think what's sometimes interesting in engineering, the GPA might seem low, but it's very high in the class, right? Because sorry to say, it's probably one of the hardest topics, to study, various engineerings. And okay, I also have a software programming degree, so it's not as easy as some other topics when you study. So sometimes the GPA might seem low, but it's very important not just to write the number, whatever you had, the 3.3, but to say I had the 3.3, but actually it was, top 5 or top 10% of the class. I know you don't always get this information from the university, but try and find that out. If I move kind of a bit more around the education, so as you probably know, 690 is, not the highest score in the world, but it's a good, solid score. And I think for the schools that you're going after, it's above their average. I think, Cass and Warwick, I think they usually say they just want a 650 and above kind of thing. And so you're way above that. Schulich as well. I mean, you're kind of in the right area. Again, you come from a competitive background, so I would love to see more points there, but it is what it is kind of thing. So I think you have a good chance. Again, I haven't seen your application, but I think, the GMAT isn't the issue or an issue. More compliments around your professional work experience. So first of all, like the industry you work in. Okay, so I'm going to start with Seabedge. You know, what I like about your profile, and I see this a lot, is profiles that I can get, okay, and I understand. And the hardest profile sometimes is when someone tells me, oh, I work in this, you know, internet marketing for mobile phones, leveraging something in Fiji, and like I lost him. And, you know, I'm with him, I'm working with him. I don't even understand what he's saying. How will admissions understand? And I think when someone works in a very old school industry, okay, or something that everybody understands, okay, it can be, you know, automobiles, it can be a bank, it can be, you know, pharmacy, pharma, okay, so people understand that, a government position. But when, you know, so I actually like that. I think that's an advantage when you know, so I really like the fact that when you were at Seabedge, you were working, you know, in the travel and hospitality domain, and you were an IT consultant. That's great. And I think you did a nice shift to Deloitte, and right now you're also managing people on various projects. I love that. Another advantage, I really liked kind of the international experience and working, you know, with Louisiana. Again, I know you work from India, but working with teams in the US, with a client in the US, is a huge strength of yours. I wasn't sure if you actually were promoted in the time that you were in Deloitte, or you just shift kind of from one project to another.
So I moved from one project to another. However, my firm has considered me for promotion for the upcoming cycle. So
Okay.
the cycle that ends in 21, I am up for promotion.
Good for you. And again, this is another thing that when someone works a couple of years in a company, again, it's very difficult in certain companies. I would love to see some kind of promotion or even title change. And even if you're working on another project, perhaps somehow you can ask from your bosses, or I don't know, that the title changes. And instead of being a business analyst, it can be a technology analyst or whatever. But it at least looks like, yeah, I mean, it could look like two different titles, and then, you know, someone might assume that it was a promotion. Okay, so I'm saying I would like to kind of split it up and see that. Again, in terms of your extracurricular activities, I really like them, so I'm not going to go into that. I love your managerial experience, okay, both at work and in your extracurricular experiences. Great. I love that you playing badminton competitively. That's something really great. So if you have a sport that you're really passionate about, or sport or hobby, or something that you do kind of professionally, okay, it can be cooking cupcakes. Talk about it. It differentiates you from the other 500 Deloitte consultants, right? Yes. So you can talk about something, and, you know, admissions might say, oh, it's a cupcake guy. Okay, so you can talk about something different. It's fine, you know. And, you know, I didn't tell you enough about me. I used to be a squash champion when I was 16. Although I applied to London Business School at 27, I spoke about my squash championship at 16. Why? Because that's what I had, and that differentiated me from a lot of other candidates.
So in my extracurricular activities, I play badminton for my firm as well. I represent my firm.
Fantastic.
Apart from that, I am the part of the core team that organizes sports events. So I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I did get a chance to represent my school at the national level. That's somewhere in 2005. But I did mention that in my resume.
Yeah, I saw. And I said amazing. And, you know, when schools view your profile, they want to see three things, in high level. One is your professional experience, great, that you're senior enough, you've done enough things. Second of all, your education, your GMAT, you know, the stats. Let's just see that you're academic enough. And the third thing is everything else. Okay, are you an interesting guy? You know, I used to interview for London Business School for 8 years for MBA candidates. And when I sat with someone fine, I had to review him on 10 different things, his English, his communication skills, etc. But the bottom line was, did I want this guy in my class or not? Okay, so if the guy is boring as a dry biscuit, or whatever analogy you want, you know, he can have a 799 GMAT. Who cares? Okay, and you seem like a really interesting guy. You seem like you would bring a lot to class because you've done a lot. So I really like your profile. I wanted to say one word about your career goals. Definitely moving from IT consulting to business consulting to strategy consulting. I can see that happen. I think that's the next path in your business aspirations and in your career. Very realistic. Definitely go for that.
Thank you. And for the school's standpoint, all of these other schools, I chose them because going by their course structure, they all of them have good focus on consulting their specializations. Apart
Correct.
from that, if you can suggest, if you have any suggestions for schools that align with my post MBA goals, considering my GMAT score, because at the moment I'm not pretty
I
sure whether
understand.
I'll be looking for another attempt.
I understand. And I would go for similar schools. I can see in the UK you went for maybe 1-year programs. And
Exactly.
you can probably go for any school besides London Business School, which is also more than 1 year and might require a high GMAT. Probably Oxford and Cambridge as well would require a higher GMAT. But any other UK school, for example, it could be Imperial College. You said Warwick and Cass. There's other schools. So I would go for any of those schools, and that's fine.
Manchester, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
Any of those schools. Yeah. So thanks, guys. Thanks, panelists. And what I'm going to do now, we're going to get cut off at some stage. So I'm going to run through kind of the questions that were asked. I'm going to try and answer as much as I can. I'm very fast. I talk very fast. Keep answering your question. Keep asking your questions. And when someone from GMAT Club decides to cut us off, I'm sorry, but that's what's going to happen. Okay, I'm looking through your questions. Start asking more and more and more and more. And I'm looking also for questions that might be relevant for a lot of the candidates as well. So I'm going to try and do that. And let me try and do that as much as I can. Yes, wait, there, GMAT Club asking me, we have 7 minutes left. Woohoo! Where we can do this. So someone's asking me a bit about about the GPA, and is it a killer for them? Okay, they're giving me their GPA. It's 5.2 out of 10. And I think I answered that before, saying, I don't know what that means. Is that top 10%, top 20%? So I would like to know what is your position in the class. It sounds very low. It does sound an issue, but I would like to know what your position in the class is. And another thing is, I really would like to know what have you done apart from that? I think I went somewhere. I hope I'm back. I think if your GPA is low, maybe if you can take some MBA courses, pre-MBA courses, some math courses, any academic stuff that you can do by yourself will help to overcome a low GPA. Of course, a high GMAT can also do that. Someone's asking about the overrepresented group. So if you're, for example, an Indian male that comes from the IT industry, how can you stand out? And that's a great question. Again, lots of schools get many Indian male engineers, for example. And how do you stand out with all the things we discussed? If you have a great GMAT, if you have great academics, great professional growth and experience, and if you do something, your extracurriculars are different. If they're not, you're not going to get in. As simple as that. So you need at least one of those aspects, hopefully a few. And remember, you can be that, what did I say before? Cupcake guy that can differentiate yourself from other dry biscuits, or whatever my analogy was. Okay, another question. I'm making myself laugh. That's always good. Another question is, what's the optimal years of experience to go for an MBA? That's a great question. There isn't an optimal years of experience. I would say minimum, most programs will say minimum 2 or 3. I would say the same, minimum 2 or 3. Usually 2 years wouldn't be enough. And I'm actually talking about 2 years when you apply, which can be even 3 years till the application. Usually 2 years won't be enough if you've only done one job and haven't had any promotions. Doesn't matter what job that is. That usually is too little. But again, I've seen amazing candidates open startups during during university, selling the startup for $40 million a year later to Microsoft. If you're one of those candidates, yeah, you can apply at 23 and you'll get in. So it really depends on your specific profile. It's a bit hard for me to answer that in a general way. I will say again, if you have more than 10 or 12 years experience, you should probably be looking at a specific program for senior candidates. If you have less than 2, you should be looking at master in management programs. If you're still in university, there's deferred MBA enrollment. I can also publish a link about that if I find it. Basically, that's it. In terms of age and in terms of how much experience you need. Leadership experience. So someone has leadership experience, not necessarily from work, but maybe from university. Fantastic. So, I get this with a lot of candidates. Let's take lawyers, for example. You might be a lawyer for 10 years and not manage anyone, okay? Or you might be in another industry, an accountant, and not manage anyone. And the way to overcome it is really to overcome it with your extracurriculars and to say, okay, but I used to manage people in university in some kind of student group, or I used to manage people in my extracurricular activities. So that's good. Someone's asking me about deferred enrollment programs. Again, I'll advertise a link in about 1 minute about here. I'm just getting it for MBA deferred enrollment programs. This is something which is quite popular right now in the US. There's more and more deferred enrollment programs out there. But there aren't many any deferred enrollment programs in the EU, so in Europe. So you actually have to probably look at the US programs, or just wait a couple of years for the EU programs that you want. And here I'm actually advertising the deferred enrollment programs if my enter button will work, which it doesn't, but don't worry about that. What else? Next question here. So maybe it's going to be, we're only going to have time for 2 more questions. So someone's asking about 1.5 years experience. Again, I think I answered that. If the 1.5 are fantastic, amazing. If the 1.5 years are standard, your GMAT standard, I think you should just wait another year and miss this year and apply next year. Okay. Someone's asking me about an Indian candidate, but he's not an engineer. So yeah, just to be honest, I see a lot of Indian male engineers. I don't see a lot of Indian female candidates, and I don't see a lot of Indian non-engineer candidates. So I would say you don't come from an overrepresented background. On the other hand, again, there are quite a lot of Indian candidates as a whole. So you do need to stand out somehow and show the school that you're, different in some way. I think we'll have to end there. I will also put here my email, my personal email. If you want to send me your profile, if you send me your CV, GMAT, school wish list, I'll be happy to answer any personal questions you guys have. I've enjoyed this a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. I like to talk a lot, so I hope it was okay. I think that's it for me, as I'm getting the from GMAT Club, guys. So thanks. And for my 3 panelists, Benjamin, Nitish, and Divanshu, I hope you get into your dream schools. I really wish you the best. Please let me and the other GMAT Club members know how it went. So good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shimri.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll end it there.